Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated, where today I'm so excited. I'm joined by actor, comedian Michael Judson Berry. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
I know Zoom has been such a revelation this year because it's allowed us all to at least interact outside the house a little bit.
Oh, for sure. It's nice. I think I've talked to my friends more now than I did when we had to physically get together. Yeah. It's so much easier. I can just stay in my pajamas and we can have coffee.
Have you done of course it's a little easier now. Most places have been open up for a while now, but early on especially, did you do the Zoom cocktail hours?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I felt like I was on my computer all day long. It was a morning coffee with one friend, lunch with another, take a little nap, and then cocktail hour, and then dinner. Yeah, I was constantly consuming beverages.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like when it first kind of happened, everybody was stuck inside. It was something new, so everybody wanted to try it. So that's the way it was. It was just constant invites to basically just talking to people.
Oh yeah,
with a beverage.
Yeah. Yes. It was almost like being in high school again and being like, how many game nights did you get invited to this week? Are you in the popular kids Zoom?
That's right. And it went really well for a while, but I did have a few of them that they kind of petered out there at the end. We're like, oh my gosh, we just talked.
Yeah, it was tough to sustain.
We would normally. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, eventually too, it's like, so what have you been up to? Well, I walked from my room to the living room, and then I walked back and I put on shoes and took them off. And it's like, I'm now out of things to report.
And now I'm lost.
Yeah. Except in my case, I'm like, well, I ordered another wig, but everyone's like, that's normal for you now. So
I know. So are you, the last I heard you were up to like 25 wigs.
Yes, I'm still about at 25. I haven't gotten a new one in a few days.
That's impressive. So, see, I've got the head for wigs. I could totally do it.
Yeah.
Never tried.
Nice lace front. It would.
Yeah, I could do it.
This could be your new hobby.
See, you've got pretty good hair there. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to cover that up.
Oh, thank you. My mom keeps trying to get me to grow it out my whole life. Even when I was a small child, she wouldn't cut it because it's long and curly. Everyone thought I was a little girl.
Yeah.
But even now I cut it short and she's like, Michael, you have nice hair. And some of your cousins don't have any hair. You should be happy with what you have.
Stop cutting it.
Yeah, basically.
Like, I used to hate all the hair. In the 80s, I had a ton of hair, and it was so hard to control because you had to feather it back and curled up around down your neck. So I hate it, but that was the style. Well, then 15 years, 20 years later, when it was gone, I was like, man, I really miss that 80s hair.
Oh.
You never know what you got.
This is true. So even if you're in the midst of a pretty awful haircut, just enjoy it.
You just enjoy it. Just be thankful that it's still there. I was luckier than most of my family. My brother lost his probably mid-20s. My dad lost his in his early 20s. I made it till about my mid-30s, late 30s before.
Okay. Well, it looks great on you, though. I will say. Thank you. Not everybody can pull it off, but
I know. Luckily, I don't have too lumpy of a head. Some people look pretty rough, so I'll take it.
That's why I feel like if my head's so bumpy, I feel like if I lost my hair and you were to like touch it, it'd be like a Braille version of Anna Karenina, like. But like kind of a one with missing words here and there, so it would make no sense.
So I usually start this way. What made you want to get into the entertainment business?
Oh gosh, I've been performing since I was a little kid. I did my first show when I was 6 years old. I did this local production of The King and I in Syracuse, where I grew up. And both my sister and I did. I have an older sister, because my parents are very into the arts. My dad was a musician for a very, very long time, and my mom grew up in New York seeing Broadway shows. And so they wanted us to give it a try. And we both auditioned, we both got in, and my sister hated it. I loved it. But she became a star athlete and brilliant student, so she did fine. But
we're not going to worry about her.
We're not going to worry about her. She's the successful one, really. But there was a moment in the show where I did this little bit and I got a laugh every night, and even 6-year-old me just felt like that was the greatest feeling in the world. I looked forward to it all day long when I got to go do the show, and I'd do this thing and it would laugh and everybody would laugh. And I think since then I was just hooked. I was like, nothing beats what this feeling of making a whole room of people laugh. It was great.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty no stage fright when you first started?
Not when I was a kid. I do now, strangely. It's one of those things as you grow up and, I don't know.
You realize the stakes when you grow up.
You're like, oh no, if I mess up, people will be disappointed. So I, strangely enough, I do have stage fright now, but no, as a kid, I was pretty fearless.
Yeah.
I was like, give me a costume and throw me on a stage. I'll do anything. I'll stand on my head and juggle tomatoes if it means I can be on stage. So
yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah. So what, one of my favorite movies all time is Monty Python Holy Grail.
Oh,
yeah. So you got to be in Spam a lot.
I did for a year.
It's amazing. Tell me a little about that.
It was a dream come true. I also grew up with watching Monty Python.
Yeah.
I have 4 uncles who are huge Monty Python fans, and whenever our family got together, they would just do all the bits.
Do you have a favorite skit?
Ooh, I think the Dead Parrot skit.
Oh, the Dead Parrot skit's pretty good.
I think the Dead Parrot one, yeah.
That's pretty good. I think outside of the Holy Grail, I would probably take Spanish Inquisition, I think.
Oh, yeah. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
But who did you play in Spamalot?
I played Patsy. So the one that follows behind King Arthur with the coconuts.
Yeah.
And in the musical, it was great because Patsy's on stage nearly the entire show. I had more stage time than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because he's always just sort of there watching. And I got to sing Always Look on the Bright Side of Life was my big song. And that's great because we all know that song. And it was fun. No matter where we were in the country, audiences would sing the song along with me, which was just so fun.
That's great.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast.
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was my first big job, I would say.
Yeah.
As an actor. So I was, I think, 25. So that a while ago, we'll say.
A while ago. Now I was asking because we did have some groups come through West Virginia. I was just curious if maybe you were in.
I did play West Virginia, so it's quite possible you saw me.
Yeah. I think we went every time it came through. I love it. Yeah. It's
then you probably
the musical gives you some stuff that the movie doesn't. It's got its own little charms.
Oh yeah, well he definitely pulled in bits and jokes from other movies and other sketches from their canon, I guess, and then also of course some new original jokes, and the songs are all new and they're all phenomenal.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So it was great. Eric Idle actually came and saw the show when we played Los Angeles. And one of the best moments of my life, because everyone was really nervous, obviously, since he wrote it, and he's, Eric Idle.
Yeah.
And he came and saw the show and came right backstage right after curtain call hadn't even fully finished, and he was backstage. And he came right up to me and he was like, you're very funny. And I'm like, stop. Stop. One of my heroes just told me I was funny in his show. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when I was in college, this was late 80s, early 90s, and we had, back then it was just, there wasn't any DVDs, so it was just the VHS. But we had Holy Grail playing nonstop. I had 3 roommates, and nobody would even necessarily be watching it. It just never stopped playing. Whoever would walk through when it was ending would just restart it. So anytime you came in, you were getting bits and pieces of the Holy Grail. And that went on for, 4 years with that.
That sounds wonderful.
It was.
I would love to live in that house.
We've got some lovely mud over here.
Just because what a watery tart threw a scimitar at me. It's the lines in that movie are just so good. No, I just want to rewatch the movie.
Yeah, so I'm so jealous that that you got to do that. But what a great experience to travel the country, to be in such a great show, to apparently be hilarious in front of Eric Idle.
Apparently. Yeah. And I lucked out too, because our cast was just wonderful. You know, we all got along really well, and everyone was just so good. It was just a dream.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have done some acting. I saw that you were in one of the I guess the festival darlings, Milkwater. Did I get that right? Milkwater?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, because it sounds such an interesting story, and it's got such a good cast. I saw that Molly Bernard and who was the other? Patrick Breen was in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the two stars of it.
Yeah, and others. But it was it's one that I would love to see just from the description of it. So I'll let you tell a little bit about it, and then you have to tell us, where we can go and find it.
So it's about this young woman named Milo, who's played by Molly Bernard from TV's Younger, among many other things. And she is in her 30s and kind of just lost. And she ends up meeting this older gay man in a bar, played by Patrick Breen. Right. And she sort of rashly agrees to be his surrogate because he's trying to have a baby. And just decides to do it. And so the film follows her over the course of her pregnancy. And you watch as it does end up changing her life and her relationships with all of her friends around her. And it doesn't go, of course, as she ever expected it to. No, of course. But it is certainly a fun journey. And and I play her best friend's boyfriend. And her best friend is played by Robin De Jesus, who was just in Boys in the Band and
he's
Tony
so
nominee.
Good.
He's phenomenal and one of the nicest people on the planet. So I got to play his boyfriend, and which originally was one of those fun ones where I got in. It's supposed to be kind of a small part. And our director, Morgan, who's wonderful, let me just sort of improvise this one moment that she thought was hilarious. And so she just sort of kept dropping me into more and more of the film. So before my part just kind of kept growing.
That's what you want.
Sort of as this sort of doofy comedic interest. Like, bless his heart, his name's Teddy, and he never really knew what was going on, but he was happy to be there, usually in very, very short shorts. So it was fun. But it's a really beautiful little movie. So it's currently hitting different festivals around the country. And if you go to the Milkwater film website, they should be there. And hopefully it should be streaming sometime this spring.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to. That's one that I always, as I prep for the interviews, I always I'm playing video clips, or I'm reading stuff to my wife, and then she's like, "Oh, we got to watch that one. We got to watch that one." That's on the list. So is it good? Kind of comedy drama?
Yeah, it's definitely it's not a full-on slapstick comedy, but it's not a drama. It's a lovely sort of New York dramedy, I guess you could say. It has that sort of Brooklyn indie film vibe.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say it keeps winning Best Screenplay and Best Picture in all these festivals.
Yeah,
so we're all very, very proud. Yeah.
You can't beat that. I got to go in January, right before everything shut down, to Sundance and kind of experience that. That's the first large festival that I'd ever been to. And that was a lot of fun. And you see a lot of really interesting movies that you might not catch anywhere else. It's the festival circuit is really interesting. But then you have those ones that normally win the Best Picture ones, and then they just explode. So the next thing you know, they're everywhere.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, because that would be awesome. That would be really good. Was that your first in front of the camera work?
This is my first feature film. I'd done little things here and there, but this is my first feature film. Yeah. So it was exciting. It was a fun one to learn it. And this cast, everybody on set was really, really nice. So I feel very lucky that this is my first foray into movies.
Yeah, and it's such a big role. I mean, that's really great. That's pretty good. So all right, so we have to talk. The show that we fell in love with during the quarantine was Schitt's Creek.
Yes.
I mean, oh my gosh, it's absolutely got to be one of my favorite shows of all time. It's one of those, like, you watch the first episode and you're like, it's okay. It's okay. The cast, I don't know, they're a little annoying. That's a little annoying. But by like the third episode, you're like, I love this cast so much.
Yeah. They all have just so much heart. You know,
I mean,
as over
amazing.
the top as they are, they all have so much heart, and you just fall in, despite your best efforts, you fall in love with them.
Yeah. So you came up with this idea to keep yourself busy during this I don't know, COVID year. Explain what you did and kind of the thought process that went behind it.
I wish there was an extensive thought process, but I'm not that sensible. When we went into quarantine, obviously there's no work for actors. And I've done a lot of improv in New York. I was doing a lot of improv at this place called The Pit. And most of my friends there are writers and comedians and sketch writers. And so they all exploded. They're creating podcasts and web series and all this stuff. And I was looking around, I was like, well, I want to try something. And I knew I could do a pretty decent impression of Catherine O'Hara's character, Moira Rose. I had done it in an improv jam and just for my friends, basically. And so for this one Instagram challenge, because we all were doing those challenges, right? Like the push-up challenge and the squat. Remember the good old days.
The good old days.
When we were innocent. My roommate and I did this impersonation challenge because he does a pretty good David. And so we did Moira and David. And our friends all thought it was very funny. And so I thought, well, what if we created a little talk show with Moira and David? And she's always drinking tea on the show, so we'll call it Quarantine Time. And I'll be Moira, you be David, and we'll just sit and chit chat. And he had no interest in doing this. So I thought, well, I'll just do it myself. And luckily he had a couple of wigs left over from Halloween costumes. So one day I just put this wig on my head and got my phone out, and I just improvised a monologue as Moira, basically saying that she was going to host her own talk show just like Ellen. And that's where it all started. And I was basically just an inside joke for my friends. And a couple episodes in, it kind of took off. And then a friend of mine who does drag called me and he was like, well, if you're going to do this, Michael, brush your hair. Maybe make your wig look presentable. And then my mom called me.
I love that you're getting critiqued.
Obviously from the get-go I was getting critiqued, but critiques that made a lot of sense, and luckily I listened. And then my mom called me and she's like, Michael, if you're going to do this, make sure you keep every episode very positive. What we all want right now is hope.
Yeah.
And so that became the initial challenge at the beginning. Was I was like, okay, what's something we're all experiencing in quarantine that I can address from Moira's very specific perspective, but in a way that always is positive and hopeful. So
I got to tell you, it has helped fill that gap of wanting more Schitt's Creek episodes. Absolutely is cracking me up, and it hasn't even bothered me that you've got the facial hair thing going on. I go straight. You're so good at the accent and the impersonation. I just go straight there. It's just like I'm watching her on Schitt's Creek.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's funny. I've had people, I did a photo shoot once, like this little promotional photo shoot, and I brought the wig and the guy was like, okay, well, or the photographer, Curtis Brown is his name. He's lovely. And he was like, so do you want to shave and put on your makeup? And I was like, oh no, I never shave. And I've never worn makeup. And he was like, seriously? And I was like, oh yeah, I always have a full 5 o'clock shadow. I make no pretense that I'm not a dude in a wig. And he was like, really? I've never even noticed it. So that to me was a huge compliment.
It's the truth. I'm so enthralled with what you're saying. I mean,
thank you.
It's so. Oh, you sound just like her. And she's probably one of my favorite actresses.
Oh, she can do no wrong.
You know, I had read that most of the accent with that character, that was all her. You know, the words she said and that was just her that kind of brought that. You know, that wasn't how she was necessarily written. She kind of brought that to the role.
Yeah, and it definitely evolved throughout the series. Because I know she's said in interviews, she's like, there's no consistency to this accent. There's almost no rhyme or reason to it. And as you watch the show, it does. It sort of like everyone loves when she says bebe. And that didn't happen until later in the series. So that's what I think is sort of the freedom of doing a parody of it. It's like, well,
it's one of those things.
Can be whatever it is.
That's right. Yeah. It was one of those where she, initially was probably my least favorite character and quickly became my favorite because of the way she, oh my gosh, and Baby was one of them. I mean, the way she pronounced things would just kill me. I just have me rolling.
Oh yeah, and those inflections that are just all over. I mean, the choreography of her phraseology is just, it's all over the map.
Yeah, you do that so well. You do that so well. Have you heard from anybody from the cast?
No, which I understand. But she did talk about me in an interview once.
Really?
Catherine O'Hara, yeah.
Yeah.
She was doing an interview leading up to the Emmys, and the gentleman interviewing her asked her, he was like, how does it feel to have, created such an iconic voice that so many people parody and impersonate, much like Michael Judson Berry on Instagram? And she was like, oh, I've seen him. He's great. And
what did that feel like? That would have sent me just, I've been floating across the room.
I'd say that was on par to when Eric Idle said I was funny. When Catherine O'Hara said that my impression was really good, and she said my writing was funny. And so someone sent me the article, and I happened to be walking across the street. I almost got hit by a truck. Like I was, it was that, I mean, there's no higher praise, coming from her since she created that,
Yeah. That's it's so good. It's so good. Do you have a favorite, a word of hers?
A favorite word of hers?
The way she pronounces.
Well, she never said it on the show, but I've used it a few times now, which is Floxenoxynilepelification. I just love it because it took me so long to figure out how to pronounce. People sometimes will send me words and challenge me to try and make them work in a sketch. And someone sent me that because apparently it's one of the longest words in the English language. And so it took me so long. So now I'm so proud of it.
Well, that was my next question, was how much of that have you just made up that would be how she would say it? Because it all sounds like things that character would say.
Oh, thank you. It's sort of a mix. Luckily, I grew up with a mother who's a very big reader, and my mom speaks like that. That's probably why I can do Moira Wells, because I grew up with my mother, who doesn't sound like Moira, but she uses that kind of vocabulary.
Yeah.
So luckily, I had a bunch just already floating on my head that I could pull from. And then my sister was very kind and gave me Mrs. Burns's dictionary of unusual words, which is one of the books that Catherine O'Hara used on set. So if ever I'm stuck, I'll look through there and just find these like wonderfully obscure and antiquated words and phrases.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What's give me one. Give me a good one.
Hobbardyhoy. Which is basically a man-child. And so I think I had one where I played Jocelyn as well. And I was like, oh, Jocelyn, how you live with it? A perpetual hobbardyhoy. And to describe poor Roland, which felt appropriate. I feel like she would call him that. I know.
That may be my new favorite word.
Since like 1947. Now I use it all the time. And Bobbish. I think Bobbish is fun. Which is just sort of
good.
Energetic and almost childlike.
Bobbish. That sound I could use. I may still.
Yeah. That's great. Go for it. They're all yours.
Yeah. So can you do the other characters?
I'm learning. I had never even thought of attempting the rest of the family, but I did it once and people enjoyed it. And so it's become kind of a thing. And quite often I'll do family Zooms, if you will, with the Roses.
Yeah, I saw one of those. Was it like a Christmas one?
Yeah. I've been doing.
And you did like all of them.
Yeah. I started, the first one I did was when I decided, I was like, how funny would it be if Alexis and David teach Moira how to use Zoom? And so the camera, it's like, is my visage apparent? And they're like, oh my God, why is this hard? And so, since then I did Halloween ones where I had all of them singing the Deo, the Banana Boat song, because since she was in Beetlejuice.
I gotta find that.
And now Santa Baby, I had all of them singing.
Yeah, Santa Baby's the one I saw. That hilarious.
Yeah, Santa Baby. With what all of them want for Christmas. David, of course, wanted tickets to a Mariah Carey concert. With Alexis, I didn't have to change the lyrics. She would definitely want a yacht, I feel like. And that's really not a lot. Like, it's not that hard.
Not that hard. I love it. I love it. That has to be one of the funniest ideas anybody has ever come up with. So good.
Thank you.
Have you thought about writing? Like writing for a screenplay or a television show? I mean, it seems like your writing would lend to comedy.
Yeah, I would love to. I had dabbled a little bit in writing before, but never this much. And now I've written nearly 100 episodes of this. And it's becoming easier and easier. Yeah, I think I'm at episode like 92 or 3. And so now I'm very excited about writing. So I have a friend that we're collaborating on a project, writing a pilot right now.
Good.
And another person just reached out about doing a web series. And so now I'm very excited to keep flexing my writing muscles a little bit.
Yeah, I've got one for you too when it comes around. So we're producing an audio drama, and it's called Last Saturday Night. It's true heartwarming stories kind of around people's experiences during the pandemic. So we just wrapped up season 1. We're getting ready to release it, but we had just an amazing cast. We had Ed Asner, Sherilyn Fenn, Eric Roberts, Allison Dunbar, just Tim Russ. It was amazing. Everybody was just looking for stuff to do. So I was contacting these actors, and I was like, well, there's no way. There's no way. But then Ed Asner said yes, and once Ed Asner said yes, there was a way.
Great, yeah.
but so when season 2 starts, which I'm hoping we'll start writing pretty soon, you have to come on and
I would love that.
You have to. You would fit right in. We could do an episode just on what you've been doing during the pandemic. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah, great.
There you go. I've already mapped out your post-COVID
Perfect.
career,
Done.
so.
We can have a whole episode about the day I learned how Twitter works. Because that's been the funny thing with this is I'm such an old man when it comes to social media and technology. Yeah. My friends used to call me, I was the old man of the group because I own a lot of cardigans and I barely could turn my phone on, let alone use it. And so I was the last person anyone thought would become, an influencer by any means.
Yeah.
And I think because I've done it in this way where people, when I first started posting on TikTok, people were like, you're doing TikTok wrong, Michael. You're just sitting in a wig telling stories and people are supposed to do dance challenges and things. I was like, yeah, but I don't know how to do those things.
That's right.
All I know is how to sit and talk. And it went inexplicably well. So, but that's what it's been kind of a funny adventure of learning just how all this works. A friend recently literally just had to walk me through how to retweet a tweet. Because which was a little embarrassing. He was like, Michael, you should know how to do this. And I was like, I've never tweeted before.
I've been there. It's not easy for us guys, especially if you haven't done it, and you missed kind of when it first started. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it goes to show it's if I can figure this out, literally anybody can. That's why I'm like, look, if you ever doubted that you could do, for people who want to try, making things on social media and stuff, I'm like, honestly, if I can do it, you can.
Anybody can. I don't believe it, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
So I read where you aspire to perhaps be on Saturday Night Live at some point.
Yeah, that would be the dream, really. I love doing sketch. And especially now with this, I've had so much time to practice doing impersonations and creating original characters. And and I grew up watching SNL and of course like the Carol Burnett show and Laugh-In and those wonderful classic sketch shows and Monty Python. And that would be a dream. If somebody on SNL is watching my videos, please, let me, I'll audition it. I'll have my audition tape.
They need you. They need you. They it's, of course, they always and have. I've been watching since '75, I think, when it started. It's always been really good sketches, not so good sketches, because not everything works. Mm-hmm. So there's room. They've got some room where they need some just, good comedy sketches. So
I love that.
I highly recommend you.
If they need a funny guy with big eyebrows, I'm happy to be there.
You could totally do it. And be careful because once this interview airs, that the phone's probably going to start ringing.
Oh, good.
So,
Please. I look
watch
forward
out.
to it.
I
know how to
say
use my
gonna
phone
start,
now. So
yeah, well, I was gonna say I used to say it's gonna start ringing off the hook, but nobody has the phone on the hook anymore.
yeah, I guess what it'll buzz off the coffee table.
It'll buzz
or
off the coffee table.
something.
I'll be nice. I won't, just say, well, they need to replace this person, this person, this person.
Yeah, no, we'll just add me. I'll take that. I don't want to replace anybody.
We'll just add you.
Yeah.
So you've been watching it for a while. Do you have like a favorite era, a favorite cast?
Ooh, probably the cast that was there when I first really got into it, which was Will Ferrell, Molly Shannon, Sherry O'Terry,
that was a great
Anna Gasteyer. That whole crew. To me, that was when I like really fell in love with SNL. Was that group?
They were so funny.
And I'll never forget, I got to meet Sherry O'Terry once when I used to work in casting as well. I've done both. And when I was working for this amazing casting director named Melissa DeLizia, who does Pen 15 right now, and we did Drunk History and a bunch of, she's a genius casting director. And so we read Sherry O'Terry for one of the shows that we were working on. And I don't get starstruck that easily, just because I always have in the back of my head, everybody poops, don't be,
that's right.
But not to be crude on your show, sorry. But my mom told me that one, so I'll just blame it on her.
That's right.
But I remember Sherry Terry walked in, and it was all I could do to contain myself. So I was like, I want her to just like stumble around and be that character who's always putting lipstick on, or the like, simmer down. I was like,
simmer down now.
Simmer. Yeah, I was like, you're
love that.
Like,
I do that with the kids all the time, and they look at me like, what are you talking about?
Like, if you knew, this would be hilarious.
It'd be hilarious. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm glad you brought up casting. I wanted to ask you about that because I always like the behind the scenes type of stuff. So what got you into the casting side of it?
I was really lucky. I went to Boston University for undergrad where I studied acting. Yeah. And at the time, one of the heads of CBS is a BU alum. And so she brought recent graduates who are actors or directors or writers, anyone who wanted to work in entertainment, should bring us out to LA for sort of an unofficial like 9th semester after graduation.
That's awesome.
to intern. And she'd set us up with internships at CBS to get a better idea how the industry works. And so I did a casting internship on CSI Miami with Nan Dutton and Melissa DeLizia, who the casting director I was talking about. She was the assistant in that office at the time when I was the intern, and we've been friends ever since. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just fascinating to see the process from the other side of the table. And so since then, I've always sort of gone back and forth between casting and acting in New York and in LA. And I think every actor should at least like intern in a casting office. It gives you such great perspective on how things work, and it makes you feel better for when you don't get the part. You're like, well,
that's what I was going to ask did it change your perspective as an actor?
For sure. Just because you see the reasons why that sometimes people don't. You see exactly what goes into choosing the actor, and it's so much more than just, are you a good actor? It's are you the right size, the right look, the right energy to fit with the whole theme of the project? So that's why ever since then, it's when you have an audition, you go in and you do your best, and be glad when it works out. But when it doesn't, you can't take it too personally. Also, never shake the casting director's hand. I learned that too.
Really?
I guess you can, but the ones I worked for, at least, it was just like, if you see 80 actors that day and they all shake your hand, that's a lot of germs.
That's a lot. Yeah. You'd have to have a bottle of Purell right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're coming off the subway.
Well, we're taught to be polite, and we've all had to kind of relearn some of that.
That's true.
Keep it to yourself.
Yeah. But I will say, I think the most valuable thing I learned too is that just how much casting directors want you to succeed. They're not scary. The way I think when you made me feel less nervous going into auditions, because the only person who wants you to succeed more than yourself is the casting director. Because there's nothing better than finishing a session and having too many great options. It's so much nicer than when you finish a session and you don't have great options. So
do you operate like strictly on people that apply for jobs, or do you go out and recruit certain people because you think that they would be good in the role?
I think that depends on the project and the casting director. There were times when a casting director would be looking for something very, very specific. And I remember one time actually on CSI, we found someone who had just made a YouTube video. And she was essentially unknown, but the role was very specific. And someone sent us this video and we watched it and she was perfect and brought her in for the audition and she booked the part. Awesome. And then, and then you have your traditional agents sending in submissions and combing through them and bringing in actors.
Yeah. Is it different now? Has it changed, or are they now coming in, virtually instead of in person?
Oh yeah, everything's done over self-tapes now. Which, has its ups and downs. Sometimes it's nice because you can do as many takes as you want. And when you're me and you're very obsessive, it's like 300 takes later, I have one that I'm kind of happy with. But I do.
But you don't say that though. You have to say, I just threw this one together.
Oh yeah, no. So I'm that much of a natural. That's just off the cuff.
Yeah, it's just off the cuff. One day.
But yeah. But I do miss going in person because I think there's something really special about actually getting to be with the casting director face to face, and so they can give you notes and suggestions and
for sure. So in acting capacity, is there a genre that you would like to try?
I would like to try. Well, I went back to school a few years ago and got a master's in classical text, where I mostly studied Shakespeare, primarily Shakespeare. And since then, I haven't been able to do any of it. I came back and got back more into musicals and then into comedies. And so I actually haven't gotten to do much Shakespeare. And so I have this lovely master's degree in it. And
we need to get you in something.
Yeah, I did Richard II when I was there. I think that's still one of my favorite roles I've ever done. And I would love to be able to do it in a larger professional setting. That's why I would love to get back into doing more classical stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great. When you were growing up, did you play an instrument, or did you? It sounds like you sang at least a little bit.
Yeah, well, I did loads of musicals. So I took singing lessons and dance lessons, and I took piano lessons, but I was the worst about practicing. That was my one. I was kind of a boring, nerdy kid, so I wasn't particularly rebellious, but weirdly, that was where I rebelled. I was like, I'm not going to practice piano, so there.
That'll show them.
And that'll show them. And my parents were like, you're going to regret that one day. I was like, no, I won't. And now I deeply regret it because I wish I played piano better. But at least I can read music from having taken those lessons.
Do you have a favorite musical? I love musicals. So you have a favorite musical?
Ooh. Probably, that's a real toss-up, but I'm gonna say it's a tie between Crazy for You and Nine, the musical.
Yeah, that's good.
They're just very different shows.
Yeah, those are very different. That's really good. That's
just because I love those big, tap dancey 42nd Street style, big fun musical comedies. But I remember I saw the Broadway revival of Nine. And it was one of the most beautiful shows I'd ever seen. And that score is just, beautiful.
It is pretty awesome. Yeah. My daughter growing up, it was Oklahoma. She absolutely loved Oklahoma. So that's always been I've always enjoyed that because she enjoyed it so much.
Do you have the DVD of the Hugh Jackman production? It's great. They filmed it. I saw that version of Broadway and Patrick Wilson did it and then bought the DVD with Hugh Jackman. Yes. I was like, it's such a great production of that show.
Hugh Jackman can do anything, I think.
Oh my God. The fact that he can be Wolverine and do Boy from Oz. It's just like, who are you? Are you human? I don't think so, because you're so tall and so talented. You can't be real.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he just gets better. As he gets older, he just gets better.
Yeah. And I hear he's also the nicest person on the planet. So talk about, and you're lovely. How dare you?
See, that's what you need.
Talented and
there you go. For your TikTok show, you need to have Hugh Jackman come on and as Wolverine to have tea with Moira.
Could you imagine?
Oh my God.
Now, Wolverine, keep your knives in your hands, please. Unless we need to butter these scones, in which case just pop a sensible one. Now, do you do your hair, or does it just fall like that? She would have so many questions for him.
I know it would be the best episode, and he wouldn't even have to say much.
No, that's true. She probably would. I feel like she'd be that talk show host that just talked the entire time.
Yeah, just talked the entire time.
Because I remember when I was at X-Men the musical.
Don't you think this would make a great Saturday Night Live skit? You should be on there doing a talk show.
Yeah.
That would be the best thing since the Bee Gees talk show.
Yeah.
They need a talk show like that.
Mm. Well, yeah. I would love that.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Cool, done.
Who do we got?
You call your people, I'll call my people.
Calling him.
Well, call Ed Asner. He'll make it work. Be like, Ed.
Like,
I feel you're the go-to guy.
So our sound guy for the last Saturday night is John Zonars, and he worked on SNL as their sound guy for like 30 years. So there's our connection.
Okay.
I'm gonna like
See,
John.
You never know.
He knows all the people. I'm gonna say, John, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make this happen. He tells a great story about walking into SNL for I can't even remember what he was there for. It wasn't for a job, but he didn't have a job. And they like, oh, you're here for the whatever it was, the sound interview or whatever. And he's like, yeah, that's it. And he got the job. Well, he didn't even have a place to stay in New York. So he was secretly sleeping in the studio overnight. And then the next day, the executives would be coming in, and finally one of them said, boy, you are here early every day. And they promoted him.
What? That's amazing.
Watch, I mean, it was 30 years ago.
People are going to hear that, and they're going to be like, you know what? The great way to not be late for work is to just live there.
Live there. He was just sleeping there.
That's incredible. What a great story.
I thought that was pretty good. Well, Michael, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me. You're right. I forgot for a minute there we were even doing a show.
Yeah, that's the pro in me. That's what I do. Like, there goes that guy just babbling again.
Yeah. I mean, that's story of my life. They're like, oh, there's Michael. It's like switching on a radio that's right. Have an off switch. Yeah.
So before you go, is there anything upcoming? I know probably not, because it's been so tough, but anything upcoming that we can see you in?
I mean, just Milkwater, hopefully when it streams later this year, or next year. And right now that's it. I've been auditioning, as much as I can, but obviously they're few and far between these days. So I'm just sort of trying to live in the present, if you will, which I'm terrible at, but just enjoy the moment. I'm making these tea times and having a blast.
Happen again. It's not going to happen again. This stuff's going to pass, and in our lifetime, hopefully, it'll never happen again. So just enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, this whole experience has just been a reminder. Yeah, I think to just enjoy where you are. Yeah, and appreciate what you have.
I learned through all of this, I've learned what a side is. I didn't know what a side was. So, they send you a side, and then tells you what your part is that you have to read.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah, your audition scenes, your sides.
Your sides. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I got my sides here. They sent me 11 pages of sides, and they want to tape by tomorrow. Oh my God. Do they think I'm sitting around? Well, I am sitting around doing nothing, but still.
What do they want from me?
I don't know why. I just became like a weird Peter Falk at that.
That was good, though.
I'm Peter Falk, and I get annoyed easily. Like,
that's good. That's a good impersonation. Yeah. Okay. You got any more? Impersonations you want to throw out?
He's one of my go-tos. I think I just not so much.
That's a great
just weird voices.
No, Peter Falk. Peter Falk's Pink Panther.
No, that's Peter Sellers.
Oh, that's
Peter Falk was Columbo.
Oh, I was right the first time. Okay, I said Columbo.
Oh yeah,
I was right the first time.
He's got the one eye. Yeah, he's a Peter Falk.
Love that. That was one of those shows that my mother was always watching. It just seemed like it. So I've seen it a ton, just because it was always
same.
It's so. And I want. Before you go, I got another question. I forgot to ask.
Okay.
Explain to me what imposter syndrome is.
So, I feel like the definition of imposter syndrome these days. Imposter syndrome is when, as far as I view it, is when you are doing something and I think gaining success for it, but you almost feel like you don't deserve it, or other people would be more deserving of it.
I got that.
And I think many actors suffer from this, but especially like I was saying, how I'm, infamously bad at social media, and yet here I am creating something that's become quite successful on social media. That is imposter, right there, because it was purely on accident. And and there are people who study this, who work very hard to create these social media personas. And here I am just sort of gliding through. So that's, I think, what it is. And getting over it is kind of tough, but I think it's just learning to be proud of what you're doing and accepting that other people enjoy it. And that's okay. You can be proud of your work, even if it's something you didn't think you could ever do.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit. The I'm good enough, was the I'm pretty enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. That one, have you seen that? It's like the he's looking, the Stewart's looking in the mirror and he's trying to pump himself up. I can't remember. Al Franken, I think, did it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it reminds me of. That's a great sentiment. And you're right. Just enjoy it. Stop stressing out about it. Just enjoy the moment.
You're not an imposter. You are a deserving person.
Right.
Yeah.
Deserve success.
Yeah.
Last thing, where can our viewers, our listeners, where can they find you on social media and see all this terrific stuff you're doing?
So yes, you can see all of my wigs. I am on Instagram and TikTok as M Judson Berry.
Yep.
And on YouTube, if you look at Michael Judson Berry, I have a whole quarantine time channel.
Yep, I have subscribed to you on TikTok and YouTube. You were my second subscription on TikTok. Next after my son. My son was the first. You were the second.
I'm quite honored. Thank you. And they're shorter episodes because they can only be 58 seconds. So the Instagram ones are sort of like the full videos, and the TikTok ones are sort of the fun best ofs, if you will.
The best of. Why do you think they chose 58 seconds?
I don't know. The people who created TikTok are brilliant at what they do. So I imagine there must be some sort of formula where it's just short enough or just long enough to have full content, but short enough that our sort of ADD brains can skim through them quickly. I don't know. But
I don't either.
I trust that they know what they're doing.
You are doing TikTok right. 99% of TikTok is just ridiculous. It's just there. Come on, your stuff though. I think that's what we need. You're going to start a whole new revolution for TikTok.
Hey, you never know. Here I am.
Michael, thank you
sing?
So
yes.
much. This has been fun. This is. I knew it would be. I knew it was going to be a blast. I've been looking forward to it all week. There's nothing better than looking forward to an interview. That's the best.
Yeah.
I've had a few where I've worried. Like, I'm stressing out. I don't know. How am I going to handle it?
I'm glad I didn't stress you out too much.
No. This has been great. Okay, hold on one second, and we'll put a bow on it. All right, so that was Michael Judson Berry. Well, if you haven't heard of him before now, you definitely know him now. He is hilarious. I am so excited to have met him and looking forward to seeing where his career takes him. He sounds just like Moira off of Schitt's Creek. It's amazing. He actually did a pretty darn good Columbo. I should have trusted my instincts when I said Columbo. I was like, that's Columbo, but I hadn't heard Peter Falk mentioned in a while. That's a good one. That's another one that would be good on Saturday Night Live. I would like to see a Columbo sketch. There's a lot of us older guys out there that remember all this stuff. We would laugh. The younger ones, maybe not. We would laugh. But he was great. I think just a talented guy. I have no doubt that he's a talented actor as well. I can't wait to watch Milkwater. So keep an eye out for that one. And definitely check out his Quarantine Time. And his 25 wigs. It's worth your time. It's so good. So good. Thank you for listening as always. Really appreciate that. Please find us on Facebook under MeisterCon. You can check out the website, meistercon.com. Brett has a new blog up going through all of the releases that Disney just recently put out, all Star Wars and the Marvel and everything else. Some really good thoughts and where he thinks those shows will go. So that's something to check out. If you would like to help us out, you can go to patreon.com/MeisterCon. we're in the studio, but we're still renovating. We've got a lot we still want to do. So if you would like to help us out, if you're enjoying the podcast and want to throw us a few dollars our way, we would appreciate that. Thank you. This has been wonderful. Oh, check us out on YouTube, MeisterCon Pod, and please subscribe. Until next time, bye.